We continue our readings for the season of Lent. We come to another story, another event in the life of Jesus that comes from John. We'll be back in John, but this morning we'll be back in John chapter 9. And it is a story that really, the details of it are kind of rare for the life and events of Jesus. We know he heals people. We know stories where he's healed people, that they were able to hear again, they were able to speak again, and they were able to see again. But most of these stories involve people who had seen at one time, had sight at one time, but for some reason can no longer see. This morning we hear the story of the man who was born blind. And Jesus encounters him and sets off an incredible chain reaction amongst the Pharisees in this man's life. And so I'd like to invite you, if you have a Bible nearby or if you brought your Bible with you, turn to John chapter 9. I'm going to start reading at verse 1, and then I'm going to stop reading at verse 17 and then pick up the story again at 35. So the numbers you need to be aware of are John chapter 9 verse 1 and then verse 35. But I invite you to read along with me. As he walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent." Then he went and washed and came back able to see. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar began to ask, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some were saying, "It is he." Others were saying, "No, but it is someone like him." He kept saying, "I am the man." But they kept asking him, "Then how were your eyes opened?" He answered, "The man called Jesus made mud, spread it on my eyes, and said to me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' Then I went and washed and received my sight." They said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I do not know." They brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. Then the Pharisees also began to ask him how he had received his sight. He said to them, "He put mud on my eyes. Then I washed, and now I see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not observe the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a man who is a sinner perform such signs?" And they were divided. So they said again to the blind man, "What do you say about him? It was your eyes he opened." He said, "He is a prophet." Jesus heard that they had driven him out. And when he found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered, "And who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe in him." Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he." He said, "Lord, I believe." And he worshipped him. Jesus said, "I came unto this world for judgment, so that those who do not see may see, and those who do see may become blind." Some of the Pharisees near him heard him say this and said to him, "Surely we are not blind, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would not have sinned. But now that you say, 'We see,' your sin remains." Amen. Last Sunday, I shared with you a memory that I had from my coaching days, and I thought of one other event that I wanted to share with you, but I want to make sure everybody understands. Not everybody is completely inverse with the positions of football, okay? Now, most of my coaching career, I coached on the defensive side of the ball. Now, the defense is the group of people on the field that is trying to prevent the team with the ball from scoring. That's the main job, okay? And I was coaching the defensive line at that time. That would be the tackles up front there that line up right. They put their hands down. Well, we started our season just like all the other seasons. The defensive coordinator and I and our defensive secondary coach. Now, secondary are the defensive backs. They're the 4 guys that stand the furthest away from the ball, and their job basically is to cover or to make sure the guys that are going out to catch a pass either don't catch the pass or don't go anywhere after they do catch the pass. But their primary goal is to make sure maybe the pass isn't caught. And if they get really good, they actually get where they actually try to catch the ball and then take that ball away from the other team. You see what I'm saying? That's football for you in a nutshell. At least it's the secondary. Well, we started the season, and we were in this first game of our new year, we were pretty tight. It was a really close game until one particular play. I mean, it could have gone either way. Time was running out, score was really close, when all of a sudden the other team threw a pass. And one of our defensive guys, the guys that are supposed to keep them from catching the pass, he actually made the right play, he moved into the right position, and the ball came right to him. He put his hands up, and the ball went right through his hands, hit him right in the face, and the ball bounced off and landed on the ground. That other team then went on to keep the ball, went on to score, and that would be the deciding factor, and we would end up losing that game. The next game, another play happened. We were on defense. This time, it was not close. We were way behind. The other team threw a pass. Another secondary player, another guy that's responsible for keeping and covering the receivers, he got in position. Ball came right to him. Put his hands up. It went right through his hands, hit him right in the face. Ball bounced off, went on the ground. Well, needless to say, we were now 0-2. We lost 2 games in a row. Third game came along. We're playing along. Again, we're out of it. We're losing. Well, the team throws another pass. Another player on our defense gets in position. The ball comes right to him. He puts his hands up. Ball goes right through his hands, hits him in the face, and falls on the ground. Well, needless to say, the defensive staff at the high school I was coaching at said, this is a problem. We need to get these guys able where they can catch the ball. We might have won some of those games if we would have just had what we call, when the other team catches it, an interception. We might have been able to win. And then somebody in the meeting finally said, well, maybe it's not that they can't catch. Maybe they just can't see the ball coming to them. So, on Monday, we went out to practice, as we always do. Normal routine for practice. We get the whole team out on the field. We do some stretching. Then we do some running and loosening up. And then we break up by position, and we all go off and we coach our individual positions. In this case, we all went this time with the secondary, with those guys responsible for catching the pass. But this time, our defensive coordinator brought out he had made this out of a poster board. He had made an eye chart. He put, the letters that you read from a distance and they get smaller as they get down the line. He brought that out, and instead of doing football drills, I stood with the poster here. We put our team back there at a certain distance, and we asked each of them to read as far down as they could. Turned out that none of them could read past the second line. They didn't catch the ball because they couldn't see the ball. We said, what is wrong with you people? Why can't you see? Why don't you tell us that? So, well, Coach, we wear glasses in school. We just don't wear them to play football. Every one of our players, our starters, were nearsighted. They didn't see the ball coming until it was right here. No wonder they couldn't catch it. And so I thought about that story, and I thought about, of course, the whole purpose of our story today is about sight and blindness. I thought maybe I would give us all, since it's the season of Lent, and in some ways the season of Lent might be just the perfect time to take our own eye test. But I'm not going to have a card with an E on it and all these other letters. I decided maybe based on the story we read today, the encounter with the blind man who was born blind, there might be a couple of other tests that might suit us. The first eye test I want to give us is to see if we are short-sighted, not nearsighted, not far-sighted, but are we short-sighted? There was a woman who was taking a trip by herself, and her flight plans required that she had a layover at an airport, and so it was kind of a long layover. It was like a 4-hour wait before she could catch her next plane and connect to her destination. And so she thought, well, 4 hours, so she thought she'd kill some time, and she'd go to one of those little newsstands, which is basically a gift shop that has everything in the world in it, and she went to go buy a book that she could read to kill the time. She found her a little book that she thought looked pretty interesting, and she also bought a bag of cookies as a snack. And so she went and found her a good place to sit near the gate, which she was going to board on in a couple of hours, and she began to read. Well, she was reading and got really into her story, and then kind of in the background, all of a sudden she was aware of some crunching noises. And she looked to her right, and there was a man sitting in the next seat eating out of her bag of cookies. She couldn't believe it. She looked at him in dismay, and he looked at her, smiled, kept eating cookies. She didn't want a big conflict. She didn't want a big problem. So she said, well, the only way I can tell him whose cookies those are, I'm just going to grab one too. So she grabbed a cookie out of the bag and ate it, looked at him. He got one, smiled at her, ate the cookie. They did this back and forth until they got down to the last cookie. She said, oh, I just can't believe this man's gall. I can't believe he would do this. What is he going to do? He's reaching for the last cookie. The man reached for the last cookie, smiled at the lady, broke it in half, handed her half. He ate his half. She said, that's it. I can't believe he took my last cookie and had the nerve to act like he was sharing with me. So, finally, good thing too, because I think she was about to explode, she heard that her gate was finally starting to board. She took her book, she stuffed it in her bag, she grabbed up her stuff and chomped off to the gate. She finally got on her plane, she was getting in her seat, she said, you know, it's going to be a long flight, I'm going to get my book out so that I can, before I put my bag in the overhead, I can get my book out and I'll read it later. So she reached in her bag to get her book, and there was her bag of cookies. She hated this guy, and she was the one eating his cookies. Which brings us back to the eye test. Are we short-sighted? Do we see the sin in others better than we can see the sin in ourselves? We read some of this story. I cut some of it out, but I'll fill you in on the details. Everybody in this story is a sinner, aren't they? The first question out of the disciples' mouth, which is pretty much a common thought back then for the understanding of God, they asked Jesus, this poor guy who's been blind from birth, who has to beg, who sinned? Him or his parents that caused this problem? Jesus says neither one. When the man is finally brought in to see the Pharisees, they said, look, you sinner, who did this to you? And he says, well, it was Jesus. And they say, Jesus is a sinner. How can he do it? Sinners, God doesn't listen to sinners. Then, by the way, they bring his parents in. We didn't read that part. They want to know if this is really your son. Because your son was blind at birth, right? And I go, yeah. They said, is this your son? They go, yeah, that's him. Well, then how can he see? How did this happen? Because you're all sinners too. Everybody in the story is a sinner except one group of people. The Pharisees. The Pharisees are short-sighted. And the question for us in this season of Lent is, are we short-sighted? Is it real easy for us to find the sins in others and ignore our own? Or do we equally see both? That's your first test. Second test is not for short-sightedness. It's more for one-sidedness. Okay? One-sidedness. I got to tell a story on Judy. Back when we were in Coolidge, Richard was still living with us. He was just a little boy. And one of the things, one of the great pleasures in life is a really good sandwich, isn't it? I mean, you make it yourself. So on Saturday, we'd gone to H-E-B in Waco, and we'd gotten everything to make a really good sandwich. Not some fold-over. We're talking really good. I mean, we bought really good bread. We bought real lettuce and, tomatoes that we sliced up, pickles that we cut up. We didn't get the jarred slices. We cut them up. We got special mustard, special mayonnaise, not just American cheese. We got like pepper jack and cheddar and Swiss. We got it all. And we got turkey, the real turkey, not that Oscar Mayer turkey. Turkey that's sliced off and it's just like Thanksgiving. We got a bunch of that. Man, we said Sunday after church we're going to come home and have the best sandwich that we can make. So we came home, we sat down, we got all this stuff out on the table. We started making our sandwiches, and those of you of a certain age know that that's called a Dagwood, by the way. Those of you who don't know what Dagwood is, see me after, that's before your time. But it really means it's a really great sandwich. And Richard and I built our great sandwich. Judy's over there really making a great sandwich. Well, we started eating, and we actually had chips, by the way. That's a real big deal in our house. We had a real sandwich lunch, okay? Well, Richard and I are almost through. We look over Judy, she's almost through, and then Judy always makes this comment. Says, "Oh, I forgot to put turkey on my sandwich." And I hate to tell her, but you can't have a turkey sandwich unless you have turkey on it. That really, technically, was not a turkey sandwich. I don't know what it was. Had everything else on it. It was beautiful, and I'm sure it tasted great, but it didn't have turkey. Being short-sighted is what the church is today. One-sided. One-sided means you focus on the wrong things. You get distracted by all the other stuff. If a turkey sandwich isn't a turkey sandwich, it can't be a turkey sandwich if you don't have turkey on it. The Church of Jesus Christ cannot be the Church of Jesus Christ without Jesus. That's what we have become. Not we, but the church in America at times seems to be one-sided. Oh, sure, they do the hows real well. You'll notice that most of the questions the Pharisees were asking everybody, not who did it, but how did you get your sight back? And they got real excited that Jesus did it on the Sabbath. They were more mad about that than they were about anything else. He broke the law. They said, "We're disciples of Moses. How did he do this? He didn't do it the right way. He should have waited till Monday, because then you can heal." They wanted to all concerned about the how instead of the obvious elephant in the room. That a man that was born blind can now see through the power of God through Jesus Christ. They missed it because they were one-sided. The hows meant more to them than the who. The sandwich was more important than the turkey. And that's what I want to see if we're there. Do we let the things in this world distract us? It's hard not to see Jesus when you're here. We talk about him all the time. But when we leave here, do we become one-sided? Do we only are distracted by the things of the world, the things in our lives? Do we forget that we worship a risen Savior? If you've ever been caught during the week saying, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? That's awful. I just don't know how we're going to get through this." Then you were distracted and forgot that God is big enough. You forgot that Jesus is the King of Kings. You forgot that he is alive today and with you. You know, it's a reason that we have a song that goes like this. "I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was blind, but now I see." That song, of course, Amazing Grace. The grace of God through Jesus Christ is big enough. It is powerful enough, and it can open our eyes today. I don't know how you did on the 2-part eye test, whether you passed or whether you had to mark a few X's by a few things. But I guarantee you today, through the grace of God through Jesus, through the cross and the empty tomb, your eyes can be opened and you can see. You will never be blind again, just like the man who was born blind. That's the good news. That's what Lent is. To realize and admit that maybe there's an eye test I'm not passing. Maybe I do judge others faster than I care about myself, than I judge me. Maybe there are some things that distract me from remembering who my God really is. Maybe that's what I'm blind to today. Well, good news. Jesus is the light of the world and wants to add his light into your darkness, into your blindness. That's the beauty of the season of Lent, is to admit I'm blind and I want to see again. Don't come out of church on Easter and say what the Pharisees did. We are not blind, are we? Don't miss it. Take it and see. See what really is there. See the grace of God that you can have, that can make your life. That's what living the real life is by living it with your eyes wide open, where the scales are lifted and you can see. However, it doesn't stop there. Lent is the beginning, but there's more to it than that. There's a story of a man who was 50 years old who actually was blind from birth, who they were able to do some kind of surgery on. And all of a sudden, after 50 years of darkness, was able to see. At first, it was real confusing for him. He didn't know what he was seeing. A lot of lights, a lot of colors, things he'd never experienced before. And the neurologist that did the surgery noted that for years, it took this guy a long time to get over the behavior and the habits of being blind. It took a long time for him to change from being blind to being a person that acts like he can see. That's the next step for us. Lent is the beginning of total vision. But discipleship is getting out of the habits of living as a blind person, stumbling, groping, feeling your way through earth, through your life. The vision you have through Jesus Christ can change all that. Our goal through discipleship of Jesus Christ is to go from being a person that acts blind to being a person who can see the way God wants us to see, beyond the tip of our nose, beyond the distractions, to stay focused on what matters. And what matters is Jesus Christ. So this Lent, open your eyes. See anew. See the world as God sees it. Say yes to Jesus, even if it means getting a little muddy and seeing the world through new eyes. And don't stand and ask like the Pharisees. Surely we are not blind, are we? Amen. I'd like to invite us now into a time of